Some Umamusume finales are incredible. Some should have ended a few episodes earlier. I didn't realize how big that gap was until I rewatched all of them. Because going into this, I thought I already knew what my number one pick was going to be. I was wrong. So today, we're ranking every Umamusume finale by one question. When it ends, does it land? Emotion, execution, payoff, all of it matters. And for a couple of these, the ending isn't just one episode, it's what happens right before it too. Alright, let's get into it. Starting at the bottom, BNW OVA. And look, I had problems with this entry from the very first episode. I wish I could tell you the ending redeemed it. It doesn't. The problem with this finale is simple. Nothing is earned. It builds around a relay race, which means splitting screen time across a huge cast. Opera O, Manhattan Cafe, Mayono Top Gun, all getting moments. But none of it lands because none of these characters were properly built up in this story. And then the character arcs fall apart. Taishin's entire struggle with inadequacy resolved off screen.
What?
We don't get some profound realization from her perspective. No turning point, no payoff. She just gets over it. And then the race ends. Not with a winner, but with 3 disqualifications. Every team disqualified. The one redeeming funny moment in this whole episode is Hara Uhara doing the winning concert alone because everyone else got DQ'd. Actually a genuinely funny moment that made me laugh. No climax, no resolution, just a reset button. And that's really the pattern here. Hi-Hide winning the Osaka High comes after the fact. It's set up for season 2, not a payoff for the BNW story. Even the ending concert gets stripped down to slideshow frames over the credits. After every other entry delivered a full animated concert, this just feels empty. That's the core issue. This finale doesn't know who it's about. It doesn't resolve what it set up, and it doesn't leave you with a single moment worth remembering. F tier. Next up, we have season 1. I'll be honest, before I rewatched this, I genuinely could not remember who the winner was in the final race. And now I know why. There wasn't one. Season 1 makes a structural gamble. It doesn't end on its climax. The race against Broy happens in the second to last episode. And the final episode is a cooldown. That can work, but only if the climax delivers first. It doesn't. Special Week's climax race is against Broy, the French champion, the true final boss of the season. The show builds her up as this insurmountable foreign threat. And then the race starts, and she never actually contests Special Week. Not once. The dreadful music is telling you to feel scared. But the race itself is showing you nothing to be scared of. Broy begins her spurt. The moment that's supposed to flip the race, and Special Week's lead only gets wider. The threat never materializes. If your final boss never feels dangerous, your finale was already lost. And then the finale, the actual last episode. There are some genuinely warm moments, the trainer reminiscing about how Spica came together, Teo trolling Rudolph, Gold Ship being Gold Ship. I smiled, it's comfortable. But then the race, and I still can't believe this happened. 20 racers, all crossing the finish line at the same time. No winner, just everyone ties. I'm not even a Special Week fan, and even I think Side Games did her dirty. This was supposed to be her moment. Her entire arc built towards this promise with Suzuka, and the show couldn't even give them a proper duel. Instead, everyone gets a participation trophy. It feels like Side Games wanted everyone to leave happy. Instead, I left the season feeling completely unfulfilled. D tier, Sped deserved better. Now we've come to season 3, and this one hurts to talk about because you already know how I feel about Kita-san Black. My channel is literally named after her. And as much as my bias wants to put this in S tier, I'd be lying to you if I did. Here's what I'll give it first, because it deserves credit before critique. Season 3 made a brave thematic choice. Instead of going back to the injury trope, which Season 1 touched on, and Season 2 built its entire emotional foundation on, Season 3 decided to explore something different. Aging, decline, the feeling of knowing your best days might already be behind you. That's actually more interesting on paper. It's something everyone eventually faces. It's more universal, more honest, and frankly, more original than retreading the injury arc for a third time. I respect that choice. But here's the reality. An aging racer just doesn't hit as hard as an underdog comeback story. That's not a criticism of the writing, that's just the emotional math. Watching someone fight through injury after injury and still find a way to win is a different kind of beast than watching someone gracefully accept the end of their era. Both are valid, but one hits harder. And for a finale, harder matters. And then there's the race itself. Kita-san was a frontrunner IRL. In-game, in the anime. That's who she is. She gets out in front and she stays there. And the anime stays completely faithful to that. I respect it. But frontrunning creates inherently less tension in a finale. There's no catch-up moment, no surge from behind, no desperate last push to close the gap. She leads from the start and she leads till the end. And as faithful as that is to the real Kita-san Black, it makes for a finale that never once makes you feel like she might lose. And then the screaming sequence. There's a stretch of the race, maybe 10 seconds, where it's just Kita-san screaming. Sustained, loud. I understand what they were going for, raw effort, pushing past your limits, giving everything you've got. But here's what makes this specifically frustrating. Season 3's hook is defined by its masterful use of music as emotional storytelling. The gradual sad song transition, the silence before she says she lost, the heavy drop into the credits. That hook works because the music does the emotional heavy lifting perfectly. When the show lets the music speak, it hits. When it doesn't, it feels loud instead of powerful. It's not that the screaming moment is terrible in isolation, it's that you know this show knows better. The hook proved they understood exactly how to use music as emotional storytelling, which makes this choice in the finale even more frustrating. The saving grace is a beautiful callback to season 2. A young Kita-san watching Teo perform, dreaming that one day she'll be up there herself. And in season 3's concert, we see Teo in the audience watching Kita-san like a proud mentor. That full circle moment is genuinely heartwarming. It feels like a satisfying end to the Pretty Derby trilogy, which is why this actually landed in B tier. A low B salvaged by a genuinely heartwarming send-off. Next up, Road to the Top. And I'll be up front, this entry and I didn't get off to the best start. The opening episode introduced two rivals without giving either one enough space to land. Ambitious idea, fumbled the execution. But the ending surprised me, because everything the hook set up but couldn't fully deliver on, the finale pays it off. Both rivals, simultaneously, and it works. Going into this race, Top Road is dealing with something every single one of us has felt at some point. Self-doubt. There's a scene of her completely lost in her own head, and Opera O just casually presses a drink against her cheek to snap her out of it. One small gesture, but it says a lot. The contrast is the entire core of the rivalry. Top Road asks her directly, "Do you ever feel doubt?" And Opera O answers in the most typical Opera O fashion ever. She can't afford to. She has to move forward, always. And that unlocks something in Top Road. There's even a nice comedic moment right before the race. Opera O slapping Top Road hard on the back as her version of a pep talk. Perfectly on brand. And then the race. The moment that genuinely caught me off guard, and I mean genuinely, was Ayabe. Because right in the middle of this race, the show cuts to Ayabe's perspective, and she's dissociating. A memory of her sister who passed away, her whole reason for running, surfaces in the middle of the race. She's begging her sister not to go, and her sister tells her she needs to run for the both of them now. And then a shooting star appears in this memory, and Top Road's voice comes through, reminding Ayabe that she's her rival, and that's what pulls her back. That moment hit me completely out of nowhere, and it pays off something earlier in the episode also. There's a scene where Ayabe tries to pull away from Top Road, tells her that she doesn't need her rivalry, her friendship, any of it. And Top Road pushes back and says that she'll show her that she does. In that memory sequence, Top Road's voice is literally what pulls Ayabe back into the race. That's not accidental, that's a full circle moment that was planned from the beginning. It's clean and it works. Top Road wins. The three of them take an ending photograph together. Opera O, Ayabe, Top Road, three rivals, all fully realized. Road to the Top came into this list as an entry I had real reservations about. It leaves as one of the more complete endings on this list. The ending did what the hook couldn't. It gave both rivals the space to fully land. Solid B. I wish I could put this higher, but what's coming next? Those endings don't just land, they hit. Now we're getting into the good stuff. Cinderella Gray Part 1. I want to start with something that doesn't get talked about enough. This finale makes you feel two completely opposite things at the same time. You're devastated for Ogre, and you're in awe of Tamamo Cross. That's incredibly hard to pull off, and this episode makes it look effortless. Going into this race, Tamamo has been built up as the final boss. Not just strong, untouchable. And Ogre knows it. There's no false confidence, no bravado, she understands exactly what she's walking into. And what follows is one of the best race sequences in the entire franchise. The early stages are electric. Expectations piling onto Ogre. The moment she makes her move, you can see the fear on the faces around her. Even Tamamo acknowledges it. That line tells you everything. She wasn't worried, she was waiting for Ogre to actually show up. And then Last Spurt kicks in. I'll just say it. This is the best racing soundtrack in the entire Umamusume franchise. It doesn't just play under the race, it is the race. Every step forward, every shift in the momentum, it all hits because the music carries it. The first 10 seconds of the track has one of the best final boss builds I have ever heard. The tension in the strings, the landing of the horns, and when they both come together, the hype is through the roof. 10 out of 10, no questions asked. But here's where the episode elevates itself. Right when it feels like Ogre might close the gap, the show reminds you, Tamamo is mortal too. Her legs are cramping. For a moment, you think, this is it. This is where Ogre catches her. And then Tamamo breaks through. Something implied to have only been achieved by the select few before her. The screen cracks, lightning tears through the frame. Rudolph and Morozensky confirm it from the sidelines. She doesn't just hold the lead, she transcends it. And suddenly, from Ogre's perspective, everything falls apart. The track warps, her footing's gone, she can't even run straight. And you feel it. No screaming, no collapse, just a quiet moment between two competitors who gave everything they got. And somehow, that makes this loss hurt more. And then the final gut punch. Her classmates think the loss has broken her. Her seat is empty, no Ogre in sight. And then the door slams wide open, completely dirty, hair a mess, completely unbothered. She wasn't grieving, she was training. And then the final shot. Same frame as episode 1, same light, same wind, but it doesn't feel the same. In episode 1, the shot introduced you to Ogre Cap. It was an arrival. Here, it is a rebirth. She lost, she got humbled, and she's already moving forward. That's how you turn a loss into a statement. That's not just a great ending, that's a complete character arc. Solid A tier. Next, we have Cinderella Gray Part 2. I'll just come on and say it. The Arima Kinen final showdown between Tamamo Cross and Ogre is the best race sequence in the entire Umamusume franchise. Before the race even begins, we get a standoff between Ogre and Tamamo, and the aggression in Ogre's voice alone was enough to give me chills. Tamamo Cross makes a declaration that flips the race before it even begins. Everyone knows you can conserve energy until the final corner. Tamamo doesn't care. She starts her spurt early. That choice alone tells you everything. She's not here to win, she's here to dominate. As a reminder that you're not just up against anyone, you're up against Tamamo Cross, the White Lightning. And true to her name, Lightning begins radiating off her body as she cuts through the pack one by one. Last Spurt kicks in, and you already know how I feel about the soundtrack. And then, slowly, the music shifts into something darker, more ominous, as she closes in on Ogre. And this creates an interesting dynamic. For the entire show, Ogre has been the one chasing Tamamo, applying the pressure, hunting her down. This race flips that completely. Now Tamamo is the one coming from behind. And the show makes a point of showing you that shift through Ogre's perspective. For the first time, Ogre isn't in control of the race, she's reacting to it. And that shift makes everything feel unstable. She tries to push forward, create more distance so she isn't swallowed by the beast from behind. Doesn't work. Tamamo stays right on her tail. You can hear the exhaustion in Ogre's breathing. Visually, it's already clear. Tamamo's lightning against Ogre's nothing? She doesn't stand a chance. Not yet. And then Dicta Striker enters the fray. Blood droplets floating in the air. Easily the coldest entrance in the race. She's been bleeding the entire time, and instead of weakening her, it defines her. This isn't just another competitor. This raises the ceiling of the race itself. Because now, it isn't just one zone, but two. Giant kanji across the screen. Bullets firing in every direction. She even gets her own soundtrack that matches her raw brutality.
ここで来るんか皇帝スーパーカー白い稲妻二つ名をつけられる馬娘は数あれど
Now it's a three-way clash, and Ogre is the only one without a zone. No aura, no presence, just effort. And that matters, because for the first time, she looks outmatched. And then, just for a second, a flash to Ogre's face. Black flames flickering in her eyes, right as Dicta asks which one of them is the strongest. The show is already telling you. And then the flashback. Ogre as a child, weak legs, watching races on TV, dreaming. Then Kasamatsu, her friends, her trainer, her classmates. Every small moment that brought her here. And between each memory, the sound of glass cracking. Slowly, reaching, until it shatters. Gray Phantom. This isn't just a power-up. This is the first time Ogre stops chasing and becomes something others have to catch. Black flames erupt across her body. The screen explodes, and then the clash. Black aura against blue. Ogre against Tamamo. Energy colliding as they push forward. Dicta sees it, tries to match it, and can't. You can hear the desperation in her voice, clawing at every last drop, and coming up empty.
嘘だろおいもっと動けよ俺の足
The gap between her and the two in front says everything. They're in a different class. She was never in the race to begin with. It was always Ogre and Tamamo. The race ends, confetti, crowd, resolution, that's it, peak delivered. And honestly, if this entry ended right here, we'd be having a very different conversation about its placement. But it doesn't end here. Cinderella Gray Part 2 ends with an epilogue episode focused on Inari 1. And to its credit, it works. The setup is clean, the character is compelling, and you feel the world continuing beyond Ogre. But here's the trade-off. Episode 9 ends on one of the strongest highs in the entire franchise, and episode 10 moves on from it immediately. Not badly, just quickly. And that shift doesn't ruin the ending, but it softens the impact of what should have been a definitive peak. If this entry ended on episode 9, easy S tier. But dedicating a full episode to the next generation pulls just enough focus away to hold it back. A tier, complete, but not perfect. And now we enter a fan favorite, Season 2. When I first started this video, before the rewatches, I was certain this was going to be the number 1 pick. It was the finale that stuck with me, the one that hit the hardest, and honestly, it's not hard to see why. Teo's comeback arc is the most complete underdog story in this franchise. Not just in what happens, but in how it's built and how it pays off. The girl who broke down on the track, convinced she'd never race again, is here. And that moment still hits, because that's what this race means before it even begins. And then the race starts. The music doesn't let you settle. This isn't a victory lap, it's a fight. Teo is the underdog, and the soundtrack makes sure you know it.
本番のレース、やっぱり全然違う。
The doubt is everywhere, in the crowd, in the announcers, even in you. Her last race was over a year ago, 13th place. You're not just watching her overcome the field, you're overcoming your own uncertainty alongside her. Meanwhile, McQueen can't even be there. She's watching on her phone. Even she can't bring herself to believe in the miracle. Until she remembers, Teo asking her to come watch her final race. And then something shifts. She goes, because this finale understands something important. This comeback isn't just Teo's. Then Hayahide makes her move. The music turns heavy, ominous. It feels over. For a moment, the race looks exactly how everyone expected. Like the comeback was never really possible. The music cuts, and then McQueen arrives. She pushes through the crowd, looks up, and freezes. Because Teo is still there, neck and neck. The music comes back. The announcer catches it.
東海帝王が来た
Even the narration doesn't trust what it's seeing, and that disbelief mirrors exactly what you're feeling in that moment. And then Teo, her lungs are burning, her legs are gone, she doesn't care.
絶対に譲らない。絶対に僕だ。
I've always been the type to cheer for the underdog, and in that moment, I was screaming for her. That simplicity is exactly why it works. It feels human, not heroic. The music peaks, the announcer explodes, and she crosses the finish line. The music stops just for a moment, and then it comes back.
1年ぶりのレースを制しました東海帝王。
That pause forces you to sit with the win before the celebration hits, to actually feel the weight of it. And when it does, it's not just relief, it's release. Everything she went through, the injury, the doubt, the heartbreak, let's go at once. That's what a real comeback feels like. Everyone dogpiles onto her, she gets a standing ovation, and McQueen, who couldn't even be there herself, is standing in the arena crying. She made it, and so did Teo. And then quietly, one of the most important moments in the entire episode, the camera finds a young Kita-san Black in the crowd, watching, dreaming, just long enough for her to say it.
いつか私も。
It doesn't demand your attention, it trusts you to notice. Just a seed, planted and gone, and in hindsight, perfect. Season 2 ends on the strongest emotional payoff in the entire franchise. And for a ranking built on how hard a finale hits, that's S tier. And now we're down to my number 1 pick, beginning of a new era. And can I just say, I did not think this entry was going to land as high as it did. But after rewatching everything, there's a layer to this ending that I didn't fully catch on my first watch. The crystal necklace. Lingering just long enough for you to know it matters. At the start of the movie, it's clear, focused, a single direction, one goal, to become the strongest. But after Jungle Pocket loses, and worse, never gets her rematch because of Tachyon's retirement, the crystal becomes clouded. She's trapped, not by the loss itself, but by the version of herself that lost. The what-if version. The one that never got closure. And that's exactly what the conversation between Fuji and Poke is about. Poke isn't just dealing with self-doubt. She's haunted by the fear of never reaching what she set out to do. And in peak Umamusume fashion, we get a conflict resolution with a race. It's simple, but it works. We see Fuji chasing her own shadow, the version of herself before the injury. And Poke watching understands immediately, because that's exactly what she's been doing too, chasing a ghost that's no longer attainable. Fuji reminds her, your era is just beginning. And that reframes Poke's entire relationship with racing. The crystal that was previously clouded, previously singularly focused on one outcome, now radiating light in every direction as Poke rediscovers her passion for racing. Infinite possibilities, infinite futures. And then we get to my favorite part in the whole movie, the Japan Cup. Opera O sets the tone immediately. She isn't threatening anyone, she's inviting them to become the strongest versions of themselves. And I don't know about you, but if my opponent was hyping me up instead of threatening me, I'd actually be more terrified. That's a level of confidence that doesn't need intimidation. And Poke feels it. Parts of her old self start resurfacing. The doubt, the fear, everyone here is strong. And as that creeps back in, the necklace scatters light in every direction. The fear is real, but so is the possibility. That reignites a fire in Poke as she looks onto Tachyon across the stadium. Tells her that she's going on ahead. And this is where the music takes over. A roar that rises with the music instead of replacing it. That mix deserves a conversation of its own. Where in season 3, the roar replaced the music, here, it rises with it, becomes a part of it. And then we cut to Poke, standing in a room of mirrors. Dark faces in every reflection, telling her she can't do it, that she'll never be good enough. And then the chorus hits. The build-up earns every second of it. And right as Poke shatters the glass, the song carries you right to the finish. Okay, and this might sound a little corny, but in that moment, I actually felt like I was right there with her. Like I could accomplish anything. That's the kind of song that doesn't just play in the background, it pulls you in. Every element landing at the perfect moment. That's not a coincidence, that's craft. Camera pulling away, world opening up around her, the girl trapped by her own past, finally free. It's the kind of image strong enough to be a wallpaper. It's the kind of image that makes a statement. That's why out of every finale on this list, this is the one that stayed with me long after the credits rolled. I came into this movie expecting to be entertained. I left being reminded that there's often more than one possibility for the road ahead. That's not something I was expecting to learn from an anime about horse girls racing. That pushes this into my number 1 pick. Alright, that's my full ranking. At the end of the day, a great finale doesn't just close the chapter on a story. It makes you feel like the story was worth telling in the first place. If you're new here, the channel is called Kita-san White for a reason. If you couldn't already tell, I'm a little obsessed. Stick around, there's more coming. Hit subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you in the next one.